Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. It is me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, joined here as I am every Friday to have some fun, to talk the news of the week. At the end of the week, it's Christy Olson. Christy, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Hello, Nick. Thank you so much. Happy Friday to you and to all of our friends out there.
Yeah, I love this. I don't in the comment section, Sausage Man 54, a new contributor. Let's go, Christy O'Day.
Yes. Thank you, Sausage Man. What a great way to start my morning.
Yes. Dave in here. Hausman and Christy, the super click is back, baby. Rick Plott, good morning. Look, I'm only throwing these up largely because I love you and we want to embrace you, but also to show how the technology works. If you're watching us right now, you want to be a part of this show, you want to let your comments be heard, you want Christy and I to discuss your very important thoughts, throw them into the comment section. We'll throw them up here onto the screen. We're just going to throw up everywhere today. We're going to puke all over ourselves.
We're getting ready for the weekend, apparently.
That's usually it's like Saturday, 4 a.m. I guess I think we're starting up early. So we got a big show here to get to. Dark Side of the Ring was last night. We're going to lead off with that in the news segment here in just a second. But after the news, we will have two more pieces of audio. We have a glut of content right now. The first bit of audio is going to be Brian Wool's SummerSlam conversation with Bobby Lashley, who at the time was WWE champion, is not. So that's why he talks like he's the champ, because he was. And also, after Bobby Lashley, you're going to get to hear my conversation with Dave Wills, who is probably better known as the crying wrestling fan who said it's still real to me, damn it, and went viral for that. Dave's in the house.
Good for him.
Yeah. Dave. This is actually also a little bit older conversation I've been sitting on. Felt right to put it out today. I don't know why. But Dave's a great guy. Really enjoyed this talk, and I can't wait for you guys all to hear that. And if you want to watch either of these conversations, Bobby or me and Dave debuts at noon or 1 p.m. Eastern over on the Wrestling YouTube channel. Bobby Lashley is already up and out. You go check that out. And at the end of the show, for everybody here, in audio video form, we're going to dive into the mailbag, and we are going to look at whether or not you think Ric Flair should still join AEW after last night's Dark Side of the Ring. And with that, let's get to it. News you can use, news that will leave a bruise. And my soul feels bruised today, Christy, after last night's Dark Side of the Ring episode. What are your, I have like 8 or 9 bits of news or revelations coming out of this episode we need to talk about, but how do you feel after watching last night's episode, Christy?
What did you say? Your heart was a little bruised, Nick? I think that's the way that I feel as well. Anytime that we hear about anyone having a negative experience with wrestlers or in wrestling, it's disheartening because there's a lot of great experiences and great people too. And I want to open by saying that. Also, this just always feels yucky because it feels like, when is it ever going to end, or how is it going to get addressed? How is it going to get cleaned up? Is it cleaned up now? There is so incredibly much to this that it's honestly hard to kind of know how to feel or how to react.
I definitely walked away from last night's episode feeling more motivated to pursue some leads and stories that are difficult to pursue because they are very sensitive. I thought Evan and Jason, the producers and directors for Dark Side, did a really great job last night. This is a very scary topic to tackle in pro wrestling. And some of the revelations that came out of this thing, and I see a couple of people saying they haven't seen it yet. Well, here's some of the things we found out last night from this infamous Plane Ride from Hell 2002, I believe, as they're coming back from the European tour. Vince McMahon was in first class. He was sitting there the whole time behind his little, curtain or whatever for the 7 hours on the tarmac, another 7 in the air, 15-hour flight, whatever. So Jim Ross was the guy that Vince was sitting back and forth. By the way, is there any better metaphor for Vince McMahon's attitude towards the immorality of his company than sitting in first class with a tiny curtain that separates him from all of the nonsense going on in the back? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big indicator of his attitude towards it all at the time. What do you always say, Nick? Silence is is saying a lot.
It's complicity. Silence is complicity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, and it's, that's the thing. It's like, we're going to walk away talking about a lot of other people here, but I want to start by saying Vince McMahon was on that flight. Vince McMahon knew what was going on. Vince McMahon did not step in and do anything. And as much as it's an indictment of multiple people that we're about to get into here, I think Vince deserves a good amount of blame here for allowing a culture to exist where this is not something that seems unnatural for the talent. You think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that he thought that he could just charter this private jet and then they're not bothering anybody in public and no one will ever know what happens. And so he could kind of sit up at the front and keep his eyes closed, proverbially and literally.
Yes, but there weren't just WWE people on their flight. There were female flight attendants. I don't know if there were male flight attendants. It sounded like it was all females from what was being reported. But yeah, so the tarmac, they're out there 7 hours before they could take off. 3 different alcohol carts were brought to the flight. So everybody juiced to the gills with the booze. They are boozed up. They are ready to go. They are all very drunk. There were reports of H-bombs, GHB, like a chemical, like a date rape drug, like a roofie. Right. You drop it in somebody's drink and then they fall asleep. And you could do hilarious things then, Christy, when somebody's completely incapacitated. Oh, the hilarity, Christy. Oh, my goodness.
I have to say, this may not be politically correct, but to see the boys ribbing each other for using the date rape drug was like a little refreshing, see how it feels.
Yeah, I guess. To me, it was the candor in which it was talked about. I've heard about H-bombs in pro wrestling, and it is a difficult subject because, like, I've heard of people that have allegedly used them and are like active, high-profile members of the pro wrestling community, and it's a story that you, for a lot of reasons, have to walk very carefully with. If you get something wrong, you can get in a lot of trouble, right? Or just whatever it may be. But it's out there now, and again, I want to thank Evan and Jason for putting this out there. H-bombs. Now you all know what they are. It's a drug you use to knock people out and do pranks or, sexually assault them. So we also had several well, I'll say the last one that did involve sexual assault. Well, there were 2, I guess. Dustin Rhodes got very, very drunk. He was singing sadly on the flight. Hilarious, right? Or whatever. I think Dustin was named in the lawsuit coming out of this flight, and there were some other allegations against him that actually did not get referenced in Dark Side of the Ring. So I'll leave it with what we saw, but I do encourage everybody to go try to find the lawsuit coming out of this flight because Dustin is one of the people named in it.
Which is interesting that you bring that up because, of course, in the episode that we watched, me knowing nothing about that lawsuit, he looked like the hero a little bit by the end. His behavior was not pristine either from what we saw in the piece, but he was the only one at least to speak up against Ric Flair for the flight attendant. So to me, that's funny. I came away with a completely different idea about Dustin Rhodes' role on that flight.
Yeah, no, Dustin is no angel here, right? So you brought up the Flair incident. I guess we could get into that now. I guess we'll just roll with it. So Ric Flair, he gets his robe out from overhead or whatever, puts it on completely naked, exposes himself, swings his penis around like a helicopter. Everybody's laughing. And then Rick decides to corner a flight attendant who is in the episode and in her own words describes the horror she goes through as Ric Flair corners her, puts her hand on his penis, right? And at that point, it becomes sexual assault if intent was not already there. I mean, I don't know, Christy. How do you feel? What's the reaction to this? I mean, this is really bad. This is very bad, obviously.
It's very, very bad. And what stood out to me was just the fact that it was allowed to happen. The attitude of the other people speaking in this piece, besides the flight attendant, about what happened. Also, when I'm watching these things, yes, it's horrifying, but you know that this is one instance of many, 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 many. This is one private flight attendant. You know what I mean? This is one person who was serving drinks to people who were over intoxicated and not behaving well. it's horrifying, yes, but it is the tip of the iceberg. And so I find it overwhelming, more so than being able to focus in on this one instance, because this is just one tiny, tiny thing that happened.
Yeah, and I think there's other instances that people have pointed to where there have been playful stories about Rick exposing himself and things like that. In his ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, it was kind of it was more like playful.
Glossed over?
Yeah, boys will be boys. But I mean, I think for it doesn't hit men, including me, I think, like it hits women. I watched Dark Side of the Ring with Liz last night, right? And it's hard to put yourself in that position, right? It to me, like, if I knew somebody had done that to Liz, like, I can't even imagine, like, what I would do or what would happen. And I'm not saying I'm gonna kill anybody, but like, I certainly would, knowing me, not stay dormant about the situation, right? It's so maddening to know this guy did this and just got away with it. Like Jim Ross said, he's a made man. He just did it and got away with it,
Yeah, and it's so easy to hindsight and put ourselves there. What would we do in that kind of a situation? Let's look at Terry Reynolds versus the flight attendant. They talked about two very similar incidents, two very similar experiences of things that happened to them in this piece. And you can see how Terry's own husband responded in one situation, felt that she wasn't in danger and that the best thing for her to do was to no sell it, as in not respond to Brock supposedly exposing himself to her. Very similar thing that happened to the flight attendant here. And I think we all are sort of thinking, oh, our reaction would be very different. I have to be honest with you. My experiences in life have probably mirrored more so Terry Reynolds. I've been in this business and I've been in the entertainment business and I've been told not to sell things, nothing like this, of course, but everything that she was saying on the episode, I said about 5 seconds before she did out loud in my living room. So, I think we just always have to keep in mind too, that people have different experiences. And so they are going to be affected by things in a different way. And we could certainly see how in this episode, Terry was very differently affected by her being exposed to Brock versus the flight attendant, a little bit different situation, being exposed, Ric Flair exposing himself to her.
And forcing her hand, onto his penis and, making it physical at that point. And yes, Terry broke down. Brock exposed himself to Terry backstage at, I think it was the pay-per-view with Dustin in the room, which was weird. And he said not to sell it. And I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about how Terry's experience is very different than this flight attendant's. This is a world that flight attendant, did not know anything about. But at the same time, I think that there's a kind of what's it called when you get kidnapped and fall in love with your kidnapper or something like that?
You like a little Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, there's a little Stockholm syndrome, I feel like, going on with Terry here, and sadly, like many women of that era, and I think probably a little bit in this era, as much as I hate to say it as well, where you get into this space. I've been thinking a lot about recently how pro wrestling. One of the ways that this kind of really, I see somebody said carny earlier, but these really awful, this awful culture is allowed to propagate and continue on, is pro wrestling is not like a law firm, right? Where you have all these people that have gone to school and like are very well educated and have plans and strategies. You're talking a lot of people that are not wealthy, that are artistic, right? And are looking creative and are looking for opportunity and don't really know any better. And when you have so many people that have nothing and you give them something, and then you say, if you say anything, we're going to take away that something and you're going to go back to having nothing. It creates,
and you show them rewards of bad behavior by others.
Right. And that is a non-traditional environment, Christy. And that's why I see what you're saying about Terry and the flight attendants' perspectives being very, very different. But I feel like Terry's experience, like her perspective, is just so filtered through the long process of being indoctrinated into having to really play a small character to like a big patriarchal structure, not speaking about men or confronting men or anything like that. And it just becomes commonplace and it becomes normal but is it commonplace and normal when you bring an outside eye in like that flight attendant? She says, I've worked with NBA teams. I've worked with NFL teams. We have a lot of big guys that like to drink, and they do not act like this. That's why I feel like last night was a little bit of a wake-up call, hopefully for a lot of people, especially when you see the kind of, we didn't even, Scott Hall physically groping that same attendant, licking her face, making her feel threatened until he like passed out. Right. It really is a wake-up call to like what the culture, what kind of lingers underneath the surface of the culture of pro wrestling and the kind of callousness to it. I didn't even put on the run sheet. I don't know how I did, but man, Tommy Dreamer at the end of that episode, making excuses for Rick, defending Rick, seeming to victim shame. I mean, disgusting. And a lot of
I thought Tommy came off worse than absolutely anybody in the entire episode.
Yeah, I agree. And I get asked occasionally about why I don't cover Impact or do anything with Impact. And like, I already know enough about Don and Scott. I'd heard stuff about Tommy, but like, if you're a knockout or a woman that works for Impact Wrestling, how do you walk in, eyes up, feeling confident when you are surrounded by people that obviously are willing to perpetuate a culture that is immoral and dangerous? And I really hope there are more repercussions for Tommy coming out of this and the people that he surrounds himself with, because it is really sad.
You know what, Nick? I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's not even about repercussions for the past. It's about changing things for the future. So
Right.
If Tommy Dreamer thinks everything that Ric Flair did was okay, and it's just boys being boys and let's let it go, then is he someone who we should have running promotions? Is he someone who we should have speaking about the pro wrestling business to the public every single day?
No.
That's where the responsibility lies for me. The past has happened. What can we do to make sure that this gets cleaned up? It's by making sure that the Tommy Dreamers who think that this stuff is all A-okay are not in control to give or take people's jobs away anymore. And he is in that position right now, and that is a problem.
And you're right. And it's not about the past. It's about how Tommy reacted to the past in current time, right? Like this was 20 years ago. If you had even a semblance of a soul or any kind of self-reflection, you would probably look at this and say, it was a different time. We didn't know. I regret not doing more. I wish I could. I lose sleep over it. That is not how Tommy has digested this story 20 years later. Tommy looks at this 20 years later as if it is present time. And that is what makes me very, very nervous about Tommy Dreamer having clout in the professional wrestling business right now.
Yes, agreed 100%.
Yeah. And I guess we'll get to some comments here with DX Vex. When I listened to Busted Open, I wouldn't think Tommy would let stuff like that fly. DX, I'll be honest, like you would be very, I mean, pro wrestling, like I say, bring people that have nothing, gain something. They get manipulated. They become versions of themselves. There's a kind of sociopathy where you learn to outwardly project a certain vision of yourself or version of yourself where the real version is hidden. And that is rampant, unfortunately, in professional wrestling. So,
You know, I see some of our live commenters here is talking about the future of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes.
And you touched on how brave it really was for the creators to go full force on this. And I think, that's a really valid question right now because they've had cooperation from a lot of the people that they talked about in that episode. I assume that they have this season, the rest of this in the can, but if it becomes a precedent that perhaps people's careers are threatened by the show, I think the attitude towards it is going to change drastically by the talent, which is going to in turn make the fans change their opinion as well. So not that that's what should happen, just unfortunately, I think they're maybe in a little bit of danger of that now. So everybody keep tuning in.
Yeah, I think there will be people that continue to want to be a part of this project. I mean, you're going to have outliers. I can think of at least 2 or 3 people in my mind of note that will probably not stop because they want to whack the beehive as hard as possible. Well, not just money, but like,
or because they're getting paid,
or because they genuinely want to see some people who are guilty of bad behavior get their comeuppance. I definitely think that this becomes a vehicle for people who wanted to see change and were told that they couldn't, or pressured, or silenced, or whatever, to finally have their day, right, in the sun, to create an alternative narrative. So I think if you have something to hide, then you're not going to do it. If you don't, you may have more inclination to go in and be a part of these projects. I don't know if I want to get into it, but like, there was at least one person on that episode that I think was very tone deaf to be included, and I know that's very vague, and I don't want to open the can of worms here right now. We can talk off air, but there was one.
Well, that's what I mean. There are people who are going to take the money because they need it.
Yeah,
like you mentioned before, the wrestler types are maybe not necessarily those who have gotten to the point where they're wealthy, or who have another job to fall back on when they're done with all this stuff. So,
yeah, I think money's a part, but I really think that at this point, because there's not a whole lot of money in these Dark Side episodes. There's just not. I think that this is going to become more of a. I think it becomes kind of a moral issue for people. You know, do I want to help kind of put a light on the worser parts of the business, or do I want to keep my spot and not get involved? You know, and I've heard from people on both sides of that equation. So,
interesting. I predict that someone is going to try to make sure that this show is not as popular and maybe doesn't see many more episodes. And I unfortunately, that's my prediction. That's not right, but
so on a day where this episode is coming out, coincidentally, you know, you're probably going to get a lot of tweets coming out of last night's episode, Brock Lesnar's tiny penis and Terry Reynolds' face, things like that, right?
Yeah, how come nobody's going in hard on Brock, by the way? I just wanted to mention that really quick. Want to make sure we say that on the air because I think it has something to do with Terry Reynolds and the fact that we're all watching this and we have an opinion about Terry Reynolds, or we think we didn't like her when she was in wrestling. So who cares? You know, it's Brock Lesnar. We love him. Just interesting how people are reacting much differently to that situation, which again was pretty similar to the one that the flight attendant went through with Ric Flair.
Yes, and it would seem that there should be some kind of repercussions for these people, right? Well, on a day where you would think maybe you're going to deal with that, Brock Lesnar, exposure, sexual harassment, these are headlines. WWE decided instead to try to flood the lane and create a different big story for Brock Lesnar for everyone to be talking about today, which sadly for them was not my leadoff story today. You got second billing. Brock Lesnar is going to take on Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. Paul Heyman will be in Roman Reigns' corner. Universal title on the line. If Reigns retains over Finn Balor at Extreme Rules, regardless, though, Lesnar Reigns is happening in Saudi Arabia. I think it's a foregone conclusion he'll roll through Balor. And then maybe Brock is rewarded for his bad behavior in Saudi Arabia by being given the WWE Championship. What kind of hell is this, Christy?
Well, it's the same kind of hell that we've been in. So WWE obviously knows that they can go to Saudi Arabia with zero repercussions. What happens there? It's like Vegas. What happened in Saudi Arabia doesn't happen. You know, this is a huge match. Obviously, this is WrestleMania level stuff. The fact that they think they can go blow this off quick in Saudi Arabia and everyone's still going to want it later because no one's going to know or care what happened in Saudi Arabia just says a lot, I think, about their attitude of like, hey, we can do whatever we want. You know, let's just not forget about the whole argument that they shouldn't be going there in the first place. This is all just very bad. This is gonna be one of those episodes where everybody's like, "You're just shitting on WWE." And you know what? Today, there's, you know, they need to be flushed today. I'm sorry.
We take the news as it comes, people. All right, this is just what we were given in the last 24 hours. The thing with Brock, it's like multiple issues for them, right?
Yes, so many.
He's a baby face, right? Now, I think that the people that are upset about this are far more in the AEW vein because they're hardcore fans that are watching Dark Side of the Ring. I don't know if kids, families, because Dark Side gets like 130,000 viewers, you know, some replays.
Really
like, does the broader WWE audience know about this, care about this? Does it change the reaction Brock Lesnar gets? You don't think so at all? No?
Nope. Zero, zilch, zero. Brock is for the casual fans, and casual fans are absolutely not watching Dark Side of the Ring. They've never even heard of it.
Yeah. So, and we'll see, because like this morning, Brock and Rick were both still trending in the United States. So people are like talking about this. I mean, with, I lean with you to think nothing's really going to happen here, right? he's going to get Carl Anderson. Okay. Right. We all know. Rest in peace, Daphne. How about her? Not you. So I wonder with Brock though, because he is so high profile. Does it take like a bored CNN, news guy in the 4:00 hour on a Thursday who's like, hey, or this is kind of like, this guy's really famous. Sexual assault stuff plays. I'm not saying maybe not CNN, but like New York Post, like, does this get picked up by another outlet that makes it more mainstream? That's a risk that I think is being run right now at the moment,
Yeah, I think you make a good point. That being said, though, again, do people really care that much? Again, someone from CNN is going to look at this and go, okay, wrestling. Already, they don't understand it. They have a negative opinion of it, and they don't think that audiences are really into this kind of a story. So, okay, well, Brock Lesnar. Oh, okay, well, he's famous. We know him. Oh, this is kind of, I could just see, someone sitting down with this and going, no, forget it.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. So anyway, Brock Roman in the desert, Saudi Arabia, as a counter.
Because that should be the conversation. If journalists really want to make a stink about this, we should still go back to the WWE is going to Saudi Arabia business and, open that can of worms first.
How does this company survive so many things? Like the beginning, I'll go back to the beginning. Vince was on that flight. Vince, this isn't like a brick wall. You can hear what's going on the other side of a curtain. Jim Ross is running, back and forth, giving you updates, pal, and to do nothing and to be completely distanced from that behavior and that culture is just so disheartening to me, Christy. So disheartening.
Well, maybe they use the Brock thing to kind of put a Band-Aid on it. Because Brock is such kind of an untouchable figure, and what he did on a scale is different comparable to the other allegations that were made. Perhaps Brock is the one to release a short statement and say, "Hey, I know these allegations are out there from back in the day. I want to say, I would never behave this way now," or just something very short, succinct to kind of put a Band-Aid on and go, oh, okay, he addressed it, but that doesn't draw too much attention. And that lets WWE go, see, okay, we're done with this. We apologize. We're moving on.
Yeah, I wonder, because like WWE has Brock in a position right now where they're going to have to use him and figure out a way around this. The one that was kind of in flux, and we'll talk more about it in the mailbag, and I think it's going to be a very brief mailbag today. It's just a yes or no question. But Ric Flair to AEW. I mean, Andrade took out Chavo Guerrero. Rick's been backstage. Tony Khan was just in the scrums. I asked him about Rick, and he was saying how good of friends they were and how great it was to have Rick backstage, helping him out in Gorilla, telling him how good his shots were, how great that meant to him and everything. I had heard rumblings about Rick maybe already being signed to AEW, even though both sides are denying it, possibly making an appearance here very soon, maybe as early as the Grand Slam show next week at Arthur Ashe. If you're AEW, like I said earlier, WWE fans, I don't know the hardcore fans watching Dark Side of the Ring. AEW's audience knows Dark Side of the Ring, and they know what's happening here right now. What do you think AEW does? Do you think they see it through, try to powder over it, or do you think that Tony Khan? You think so? You think he still comes in?
Yep. Oh yeah, I think it'll be maybe they're going to wait an extra week or two, and then the plans are going to go forward as usual. This is something that I've stepped around lightly, but I think that people will acknowledge that I've said over and over, and that is that Tony Khan has a bit of a problem getting up on his soapbox for people that are not valuable to him. A couple weeks ago, suspending Max for his rap, but then Carl Anderson was right out there with the boys on the pay-per-view after what he did and said was, in my book, far more deplorable than what Max did. So I think Tony has been sort of running into this issue where he's going to look like a huge hypocrite. And this is going to be the one that really puts the icing on that cake for him. I think that nothing will be addressed. We are going to see Rick on TV in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be an indicator of a bigger problem that AEW has, where they're trying to be woke, but they still have
good old boy culture. Yeah, good
exactly.
old. Yeah,
exactly.
Yes. Don Callis is there, everybody. Don Callis is there, cutting promos in the main event. That is disgusting. I mean,
there's other big names too. I mean, we know. We all know. You know you've heard things. You read the interviews. You know who they all are. We all know.
Don's got to go first, and then we'll deal with the rest. Well, it's a domino effect, right? You get one to fall, they're all gonna feed off of each other, right? So anyway, yeah, one of them. I'm not. I can't do it. I'm gonna get in trouble if I open that can of worms here today. Okay. So we'll table this for now, and the mailbag will real briefly come back and talk a little bit more about Rick. We can read some more comments here. Obviously, this is a big topic of conversation. So a couple things here to before we get to Lashley and Dave Wills in the mailbag. MVP, according to WWE, suffered injuries, rib injuries at the hands of Randy Orton on Monday night, taking an RKO. So it was interesting that MVP was on that flight with Shelton Benjamin the other day, said, teased maybe the Hurt Business getting back together. It looks to me more than ever, Lashley could be a solo act going forward, which is weird, dumb.
Yeah, I was confused by this entirely. Why announce this? Why now? When this all went down on Monday, they're clearly trying to do something here, but it feels like they don't know what, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Lashley's been much better on the microphone, but MVP really sells the guy, and I would hate to see that act get broken up. I mean, Hurt Business was not as long as it should be, but these two have been really good together, and I don't know. I don't know why you take the title guy, take his manager away. He's gonna get reshuffled right to the middle of the pack here. I feel like pretty soon.
Ooh, I think that's probably a pretty good prediction. Aw, sad.
Yeah. Well, prove me wrong, Vince. Woke Vince McMahon with your black champions. The Wrestling Observer saying word now is that the stretcher angle on SmackDown was done to explain Edge not being around for a few months. Last Friday's Super SmackDown saw Rollins defeat Edge in a SummerSlam rematch where Edge picked up the win. Post-match, Edge was left laying by Rollins in a stretch and then was stretchered out. Beth Phoenix confirmed that Edge is back home resting. She tweeted out the comments on her main feed, but she never gave any kind of real formal storyline injury update. But Edge, it looks like, taking some time off. I feel like he just got back.
Yeah. Well, and again, doesn't this one sort of feel too like they don't know how long he's going to be gone? Like it might be indefinite. That's why they put these comments out by Beth, but they didn't publicize it too much. It's like again, they're we don't know if Vince is going to change his mind right before Raw goes to air or SmackDown or whatever it is. So we're kind of covering our bases.
Yeah, and I feel
CYA.
Yeah, and I feel like Edge, is he a Goldberg now? Like, I kind of thought that Edge was going to come back and, be like a regular member of the roster. But this feels to me like you're going to break the glass 2-3 times a year and bring Edge out for a program. This doesn't feel like a guy to me that we're going to see week to week for any prolonged period of time going forward.
No, it doesn't anymore, but it was also starting to feel like it works better if we just see him every once in a while, right? He can come and, this last time he did the big nod to the Brood, and he has so much history that I think making him kind of that big, the big name for the day, once or twice a year that can work too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if you have a pool of 5 or 6, big names that only want to work once or twice a year, and you can kind of spread them out. I mean, again, like we're moving into kind of new uncharted territory with the way WWE is doing some things. It's not always necessarily how they've done it, but it's not a bad model. It's just different. Well, speaking about a different model, NXT this past Tuesday night, NXT 2.0. Couple news items here. As I mentioned yesterday, I'd heard this as well, but the Observer saying Shawn Michaels was the one at the helm calling the show as Triple H is recovering from heart surgery. By the way, it sounds like he's doing very well, sending our best to Hunter. I read the report yesterday where they were like, you could call Hunter to send him well wishes as he's recovering, but don't mention anything about the business of pro wrestling. I shouldn't laugh, but the strain of talking about NXT might hurt Hunter again. So anyway, it was reported before the show that Kevin Dunn was also at the taping. McMahon, Bruce Pritchard were not there. However, McMahon did review the script and was involved in creative. Though that is not, he is not the key man in charge. So what do you think about the backstage news that stand out to you, Christy, from NXT?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that this is such a huge deal and that there's been much made of Vince kind of taking control back or really putting his eyes back on NXT, and then he wasn't even there. We all know the guy's a control freak. If he cared that much, he would have been there calling the shots. So, is all the control really being taken away from Triple H? Did he have this heart attack for nothing? Maybe so.
Yeah. Well, also coming out of NXT, PW Insider saying word going around is that fans can expect quite the push for Braun Breaker. Wow, I'm shocked by this reporting. Regarding the name change from Rex Steiner to Braun, a source pointed to how WWE likes to create and own the trademarks of their superstars. So basically, like, we don't have to split any money with the Steiners. If we use that Steiner name, we own Braun Breaker.
Yeah, and I wonder, I would love to know kind of more about the behind the scenes negotiation there, because that's pretty valuable. And I'm hoping that this kid had enough clout with his family that he was able to at least fight for it a little bit. He didn't win out at the end, but like, I hope he at least tried to fight for his name, because that is money in the bank, man.
I think Rex Steiner is a much better name for sure. And he probably did fight for it. I mean, that's probably why he put it online, to try to create buzz and be like, hey, look how much people love it. Why would you take that away from me? And maybe that decision will come back to haunt him. Who knows?
Well, it's interesting how WWE supposedly is now telling the wrestlers to make sure that you plan for your career afterward. Certainly not helping set him up for that by, giving him a new name.
Yeah. Well, Monday Night Raw saw Tamina Snuka lose to Nikki Ash, but the Observer saying that Snuka was actually meant to be the winner of that bout. The referee, as referees are instructed to do by WWE, called the match like a shoot, didn't see Snuka kick out. He apologized to both backstage. This is why Snuka's music played. The ring announcer knew Snuka would win. They announced it as such. Nikki Ash and Snuka reacted well to the botch finish, where Snuka attacked Nikki after the match before Rhea Ripley made the save. The announcers also covered for the mistake and acknowledged Nikki as the winner. What a mess. I love when this stuff happens, though. I love when the referee does his job and this stuff happens.
I do, too. This is live television. Like, they're not going to let this fly in something that's taped. You know what I mean? And WWE has such a glossy, perfect production that, we have, these things have to happen just to keep you engrossed.
And I love the idea that this match probably ended like a minute or two early, right? And you don't know what to do. And then on the fly, you put together this like brawl and like post-match angle, which is like, if they all did that, just, you get the attack from Tamina and Rhea decides, well, I should make the save and we're going to do something here. Like, that's the kind of organic stuff. We don't get to see that stuff anymore, No,
and it shows you that any trust that they place in the superstars is very well placed. You know what I mean? That they do know what to do, how to go out there and do what they need to do the WWE way without necessarily being told every mood, every word to say.
Well, but that's what made like the Attitude Era so great, was you were throwing curveballs at people. I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something that you didn't know about just to see how we react on the fly. And I'm not saying this is great because, like, obviously you want, as a booker, make sure the people you have winning and losing your worked wrestling contest accurately do that. But more stuff that's like improvised and on the cuff. I mean, it always just is, it's more fun and it's better stories,
And that's what's going to make fans latch on to a performer, right? They're going to see something that Nikki did, or they're going to know something went wrong and Tamina saved the day, or so-and-so made a great comment on the microphone, and they're going to remember that, and they're going to love those people.
A couple AEW items here. Really good news continues for all positive news here for AEW. Showbuzz Daily saying Dynamite beat Raw in the key demo for the second week in a row. Wild, right? That's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they're still on different nights, so it's not like AEW is taking anything away from Raw, but it's just such an indicator of what may happen should they ever decide to go head-to-head with Raw.
Yeah, and just like on a side-by-side comparison, so to give you this isn't like overall viewership-wise, because I'm pretty sure Raw has the edge on them there.
Yeah.
But Dynamite did 574,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo. Raw did 556, so they did less in the key advertising demo. Once again, Dynamite. Once again, Dynamite #1, cable top 150, 0.44 rating in the 18 to 49. Fourth week in a row, the Dynamite has ranked #1. And this is when people start turning their heads, like just insiders in the business people in general. I mean, this is head-turning stuff we're seeing right now from AEW.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You have to remember, at the end of the day, it's all about ad dollars. I mean, we could sit and talk about storylines and finishes and the, character of the performers that we see in the ring. But at the end of the day, all that matters is, will businesses give their money to advertise their products during your commercials? And this is an indicator that they absolutely will. And TNT is going to take notice of that. Yeah,
I agree. And, again, as we roll into television rights negotiations in 2023, 2024, again, if all the WWE properties wind up back under the NBC Universal umbrella and Fox is still wanting to be in the pro wrestling game, and you've got this hot pro wrestling commodity over here that has CM Punk, someone you like, maybe even Renee Paquette by that point, who you also like.
Right.
I could see AEW winding up on Fox here in the next year and a half, 2 years.
Ooh, that's an interesting thought. I kind of think when I hear all that, when you were saying that, I got excited about other promotions, maybe like an MLW or those kinds of ones where if people look at AEW and go, oh, they're really doing it, they're being competitive to WWE. Perhaps if we give a bigger audience to someone like an MLW, get it on a different channel or something, that one of those promotions could grow like that as well.
I just don't know. I don't know that MLW, and maybe we'll see where they're at in a year and a half. I don't know that they have the infrastructure in place to handle a national platform like a Fox at this point. I would lean more towards like a Ring of Honor. You know, they have, and this was in a PCO interview we just did with Sean this week, and I'd heard this for a while. It's not like new news. I don't know why so many outlets are picking this up. I talked to Joe Koff about this. Like,
get with the program, guys. Old news.
Anyway, but ROH had the setup to go live. They should be live. Had the pandemic not hit right now, Thursday nights would be Ring of Honor live each week.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. I read that. And is it happening soon?
It's on ice because ROH is being particularly judicious with where they're doing shows and for how many people. And until I think they're regularly touring again, like every weekend and back in that groove, I think the TV thing is iced until then. But again, like 2 years from now, it'll be a very, very different conversation. Ring of Honor could be back to where they were pre-pandemic as far as like groove goes and be an enticing commodity for me. I don't know about Fox. I mean, ROH on Fox is a crazy thought, but I would.
No, but if AEW goes to Fox and TNT is going to need a new promotion and it's good for everybody, you know, upgrade everybody.
You're right. Absolutely. 100%. All right.
And happy wrestling things.
Yes. Nobody's getting screwed here, literally or metaphorically, in the back half of the news sheet. PW Insider, on that note, saying locker room morale at AEW very high as the company prepares for next week's Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. Word going around is that everyone in the AEW locker room wants to be on the Grand Slam card. The feeling is that this event will be a huge milestone for the company as it'll be their New York City debut. Biggest crowd to date. It was also said that AEW talents realize the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite is going to outdraw WWE's recent return to MSG for Super SmackDown by 4,000 to 5,000 fans. WWE did 14,425 for the Super SmackDown at MSG. Actually, it was closer to probably like 13,000. But Arthur Ashe has a capacity of 23,771. The reported capacity for Dynamite will be 18,692. At WrestleTix is saying more than 18,000 tickets have been sold. So I'm going to guess safely this will be an absolute sellout. Nearly 19,000 people in the house for this. Just the good news keeps rolling for AEW here.
Well, yeah, no wonder morale is high. I mean, that's just money in everybody's pocket, right? You know, the promotion is so young that we haven't learned a ton about the kind of contracts that they do. Yeah, we've heard about the tiered contracts and all that kind of stuff. I want to know more about who's making what when and those from those live shows, you know, who's getting a real rub off of those and how their downside works over there. But yeah, no wonder everybody's happy.
And lastly here, before we get to Lashley, Dave Wills, and our mailbag, Bo Dallas tweeted the following out yesterday. Something is cooking, smiley face with sunglass emoji or cool guy emoji. Head over to my official YouTube channel. Stay tuned for October 1st. His YouTube channel, currently listed under his real name, Taylor Rotunda, was just created yesterday. Dallas and his partner, Liv Morgan, got into real estate while he was away from the ring, have been running their farm together. No word on if Dallas has plans for a future in professional wrestling. Any reactions to this? Thoughts on maybe what Bo's doing here?
Yes. So a YouTube channel has to be up for 30 days before it can even be monetized. And I think he knows that he is very quickly going to get the number of subscribers and view time that he needs to be monetized. So he's going to probably kind of wait to put out any huge content until he knows he's making money off of it. So that's what the October 1st thing is about. My guess is a cooking show of some kind. I also want to see the farm, him and Liv, just their life together. They are so freaking cute. And, you know, whatever this is for him, I think we're finally going to get to know who he really is a little bit better. And, you know, I think we're just going to see a whole different guy than we ever knew before. And I think he's going to be really lovable. And this is all going to go over very well. He's going to be a big YouTuber, is my prediction.
All right, Christy. Well, that brings us to the mailbag. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We still have a little bit more to go, so stick around here. Stay in the comment section. Thank you to Bobby Lashley and WWE for the time SummerSlam weekend with Brian Wool and Dave Wills. Still real to me. You're still real to us, brother. Really appreciate you coming on, talking to me, and go support Dave. Seemed like a really genuine, nice man. I really like Dave.
I mean, he certainly has made a splash. You got to give him that.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? And it's got to be hard to be like that first viral meme, and pro wrestling fans are just terrible, and like you're crying, and you know they're going to be awful, and I don't know. What a nice man to come out on the other side of that as strong as he is and be so supportive. So anyway, thank you, Dave. All right, poll question. Back to Dark Side. At Wink Daily is the account to follow. We currently are sitting pretty at 1,273 followers. We're on our way to 1,666 followers so that we can do a Halloween special with special guest, the Devil. So go follow us so I can invite Satan on for our Halloween special. What can I say? I'm a romantic. So we have a poll question here today based off last night's Dark Side of the Ring episode. Following the episode, do you still want to see Ric Flair in AEW? We have almost 800 votes here. It was just a yes or no. 62.7 no, 37.3 yes, 2-1. That's upsetting.
It's upsetting and it's surprising as well, because so this is kind of an anonymous thing, right? I feel like this is where we were going to get people's real reaction, because they could very easily just say here, no, we still want to see them and have no repercussions for that. So this to me is a pretty strong indicator of how people are feeling right at this moment. Wow, yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, it is a sad admit, because you're right. That's kind of the reason I ran the poll, is because it is anonymous. You could vote however your conscience is. And the fact that 2-1, I mean, fortunately 2-1 fans are like, please do not welcome Ric Flair to this product. But the fact 1-3 is cool with it is kind of an indictment, I think, of like the pro wrestling community in many ways. So
also, when we consider how long the memory is for things like this, my guess is in 1 week, it'll be 2-1 the other way. And by the next week, everyone will have forgotten that this happened entirely.
Well, we'll see. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for jumping into the mailbag. Thank you for jumping into our comment section. I'm going to be back on Monday, and get this, Christy. So in about 3 hours, I'm doing my final interview of the week. We're going to run it on Monday. It'll be with Rory Karpf, who you may know as the director for Ric Flair's 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN. And I was supposed to talk to Rory yesterday, and I shot him an email and I go, hey, Rory, I've heard Rick is actually like a prominent part of this episode tonight. It's another documentary. You did the last Flair documentary. Do you mind if we talk tomorrow so I can get your take on it? And got an email this morning from Rory saying, I'm really glad you told me to wait. You can ask me whatever you want. And so on Monday, you're going to get to hear from the guy who did the last Ric Flair documentary, where Rick's exposure was not quite as taken as seriously in the Dark Side episode. And I'm very interested to hear what Rory says. And if you are interested, we're going to roll that out on Monday. So come on back. I think that's going to be a very intriguing way to start next week, Christy.
Right. And that's a big part of the conversation right now, is why was none of this touched on in that? And if he's willing to talk about that, Nick, you got a hot one on your hands.
Yeah. So we will see how that goes. If there's any questions you want me to ask Rory, by the way, in the comment section here, you're welcome to just throw them in. I'll do my best to write them down and bring them into the interview. But if you like the Wrestling Nick Daily, support us, support WrestlingNick.com on all the socials. You can leave us a nice review or comment over on our iTunes page for the Wrestling Nick Daily. Over on all the podcast feeds, you can also find the Wrestling Nick podcast. That's different than the Daily. Subscribe to that. Find it late night here on our YouTube channel as well. And on Monday, October 4th, join me at Replay Lincoln Park for the WWE Draft Night 2 party that I'm going to be throwing. It's free to attend. There is free arcade games. There is free pinball. There is $3 drafts. And, oh, yeah, WWE is sending me a giant box bag of WWE swag to just give away. So it costs you nothing to come out, costs you nothing to play these games, and there's a good chance you're going to leave with some WWE merchandise that I just put into your hand for absolutely nothing. That's October 4th.
Yay.
Start an hour before Raw, and we'll party all the way through, and then we're all going to be hungover at work on Tuesday. So
the wrestling way.
Come be a part of it, everybody. That's all I got. Christy, what do you want to put over here to wrap up the show today?
Oh, I want to give a little shout out to Peter Bahi. Thanks for your super chat, bro. And guys, I do need your help. Little mea culpa really quick here. My YouTube channel, I took a little break and accumulated some copyright strikes, and I've got that all cleaned up, and I am putting out new content there now, including the truth about wrestling promos, Bright Side of the Ring, and then some great reality TV content over there. So I would so appreciate if you guys would go check out Christy Reports on YouTube, leave a comment, a view, subscribe, whatever you can do to kind of get me rolling over there again. I would really appreciate it. And you guys are the best. So thank you so much.
Yeah, go support Christy, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We continue to see bigger and bigger numbers every single week here on the show, and we sincerely appreciate it. Continue to rock and roll with us. I'll talk to you Monday. I'm at Nick_Hausman on Twitter. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.